The Proper Football Live Show. Sundays at 6 p.m. for your football fix on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter and PF Radio. Check out our website at properfootball.co.uk.
Well, here we are. It's Sunday evening. It's 6 o'clock and another edition of Proper Football Live. Guys, you really did worry me. You didn't come on till a few minutes before we were due to go live. I really thought you were coming out in solidarity, but you're here, so I'm pleased for that. We are going to address the elephant in the room. We don't want that to dominate our show today, folks, but we are going to address it. We have no choice. It's been thrust upon us. But we've got a great show lined up, and I've got a great little piece that we're going to throw open to everyone to decide should a goal have been allowed. We're going to be VAR. And all you guys and girls who are watching, you're going to be VAR tonight, and you'll understand why when we reach it. Anyway, so let's Nigel, how are you, sir? And have you had a good week?
Yeah, I've had a good week. I've actually had Friday and Saturday off my stream, so I haven't been on my streams today. I actually 2 good nights out. Interesting
time,
ones.
You needed a break.
I'll tell you what, mate. It wasn't as easy as that. It was hard work. But that's another story.
We've got a busy time coming up, Nigel. We're going to be doing Wednesday, I think, around about 6 o'clock. We're going to be doing an Under the Floodlights for you, aren't we?
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting, folks. Join me and Nigel.
Reminding me about
that. Wednesday night, folks. I think it's going to be 6 o'clock-ish. We'll put it out there. And Under the Floodlights, in-depth interview with the man himself, Nigel Callaghan. We'll be looking at his career. We'll be looking at his near-death experience. And we'll be looking, of course, at his career as a DJ. We're going to really dig in there and have a bit of fun. Right, join us on Wednesday. Then we are off to Carlton Town on the 25th for the Stockton game, where, Nigel, you're going to be doing a little bit of a Q&A at the beginning of it all. And from what I'm hearing, going to be quite a big derby presence there for that.
Is it? Right.
Yeah, honestly.
What day is that? What day is that?
25th, Saturday.
Of March?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Remind me of that one as well.
Just as well I'm reminding you about it. I'm going to have to do a little every day. Right, okay. Greg, back after a little bit of an absence.
Yeah, a couple of weeks off, mate.
Birthday boy and all that, weren't you?
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, good little break. Didn't really go anywhere. Just the usual, mate. Seeing friends, seeing family, going to football. Drank far too much, and so
coolio.
All good, mate. All good.
Dan says, good evening, fellas. He's on his train. Choo-choo. Giving it some. Just, Dan, remember, Vauxhall is a station, and you should be stopping there. So I know he's missed that a couple of times. Right. Good evening, Steve Mallon. Remember, everyone, please share. It is going to be an interesting show tonight. And yes, we are going to address the elephant in the room very shortly. But beyond that, I've got a great show lined up. And all of you watching will become VAR tonight. And you'll see why in a minute or in a bit. Do you know what? I actually got the that we've got to talk about this. But we have. Okay, Nigel, you're not so up to date with this situation, are you?
No, I'll get fed up listening to it all. To be honest.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we are a football show, and they really have thrust it into our laps. Not to have a little discussion about it.
I'll tell you what, I don't know a lot about it, but what is interesting is how everybody's got behind Gary, and on the football side of things. So. Yeah, they've stuck together.
Yeah, rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But okay, I'll tell you what. Shall I start where I am with it? And
yeah, go for it, mate.
And it would appear that it doesn't matter what I say because everyone will come out on strike if anyone tries to blacklist me. I hope. But anyway, okay. So where do I stand with this Lineker situation? I'm all for freedom of speech. Let me say that first and foremost. I agree with freedom of speech and everyone's right to have freedom of speech. I guess over the last few years, it would be lovely if freedom of speech was for all and was able to be practiced by everybody. It isn't, is it? Let's be honest. How many people have been cancelled and everything else? So I'm certainly all for freedom of speech. In Gary Lineker's case, I see it this way. Gary Lineker, the comment he made, I think, is a disgrace, likening the migrant policy to Nazi Germany. I think that's disgraceful and disrespectful. I think the BBC are a shambles anyway. Gary Lineker is a man of high profile. He's certainly very much the face of sports on BBC. He's a very privileged man earning an awful lot of money, which we pay for. He has 8 million followers on Twitter. And then because of him being who he is on BBC, so on and so forth. If this was the first time that he'd ever really decided to try and push his political agenda onto 8 million of the people that follow him for football, then maybe there's a case to argue more for freedom of speech. But this is a chap who is constantly pushing agendas, back with Brexit, everything. He's ramming his agenda down the throats of people that follow him because of football. And let's be honest, it's a really sensitive subject, this immigration thing, illegal immigration thing, one of which that divides the country, divides people. And for sure, his followers, I would probably say the majority, wouldn't agree with his comments. So, okay, that's Gary Lineker. Should he have said it? Freedom of speech.
Pitch has put a good point there. I mean, it was in his contract. He was told not to make comments on political. So, you know, I agree with you. But freedom of speech should be there. Everyone's got an opinion of
should be things. For everyone.
Everyone's got a different opinion on Brexit and everything that's going on. But if he signed that contract where it says you cannot make them comments, then they've got to be right to sack him because he's breached his contract, hasn't he? So
definitely.
He's read that before he signed the contract.
Yeah,
so he should have made.
Absolutely. I mean, people are saying, well, it's his private account. He's got 8 million. That's what I was saying. The point of 8 million followers are there because of who he is and what he does for the BBC and his football career and everything else. He's a very privileged man who lives in a bubble like the rest of his cronies that are all very well privileged and don't even come close to being in touch with normal common people because they live in a bubble. They live in Planet Zog, as I call it, along with all the football players. You know, Gary Lineker has been pushing his agenda for far too long, and now he's getting a bit of a comeuppance, whether you agree with it. I don't like the BBC. Whatever it is, this isn't just about this comment. And let's not forget what the comment was and the disgraceful disrespect he's possibly shown to certain people in these comments. Let's not also forget how long he's been at this. So this is a comeuppance. This is a build-up. It's not one incident. And quite frankly, the little speech he did on BBC on the football with Qatar, the most hypocritical, disgraceful speech I've ever heard in my life, all about his personal politics. And that was carried out on BBC, and BBC are at fault for letting that happen as well. So they deserve everything they get as well.
I don't really follow politics too much. I mean, pictures put on there, it's irrelevant. It's his private account. I mean, you're probably right there, Pitch.
Yeah,
but when he signed the contract, was he told that he could make comments even on his private account? Well, I mean, that's what we don't know, do we?
They would do themselves a big favour by letting people have a caption of that contract that not just him but all high-profile presenters have, that explain very much so that there is an impartiality required. You know, you're paid £1.34 million a year.
Yeah.
So, mate, swallow it up if you can't say something on your thing, because I'd rip your hands off for that money, and I wouldn't say boot or goose for it if they wanted to put my head in an oven if they wanted. You know what I mean?
I think so. Basically, first of all, Gary, like I agree with what you said. Obviously, we all believe that freedom of speech should be allowed. You know, I don't agree with cancel culture. Yeah, I don't agree with cancel culture or any of that, right? No. You know, at the end of the day, you should be allowed your opinion, whichever way you sway, right? Yeah. Now, the thing is, and the reason I think people are kind of backing him and getting behind him is because if you look at the BBC, there's a few reasons. One, if you look at the BBC throughout Brexit, throughout other issues in the last few years, there's been many people who have been linked to the BBC who have spouted off their opinion online. You know, whether it's news presenters, whether it's reporters, whatever, and there's been no sort of action taken. So from a football point of view, when you've got Ian Wright and Alan Shearer backing him, they're probably looking at it going, well, hang on a minute, why Lineker when other people have done the same? So that's one thing. But then if you look at it from a football point of view, you've got Gary Neville, right? Now, we all know which way Gary Neville sways. We've all heard his comments, and he's a bit like a bit like another Lineker, really. But the difference between Gary Neville and obviously Lineker done it on his own private Twitter, which, again, the comment was wrong, in my opinion. But Gary Neville's done it on Sky. He actually done it on Sky, didn't he? So, if anything, what Gary Neville's done in the past is worse, and he wasn't suspended by Sky or anything like that. So, you know, I do get people backing Lineker. Personally, I don't like Gary Lineker. I don't agree with Gary Lineker, and I wouldn't ever back him. But at the same time, I don't like the BBC, and I believe the hypocrisy from the BBC from top to bottom. But you know, I've kind of looked into it a little bit more, and you know, you think of other people, and Gary Neville's the prime example, and you know, he's been just as bad, if not worse, in the past year, 18 months. And there's been no action taken against him. So there's an element of hypocrisy along the way. I know it's a different organisation, but same rules apply. But if it's something that's in his contract and he's broken his contracts, then, you know, like any employer, they've got the right to do what they do.
All right, I think that's a big point. The contract, you know, we haven't seen the contract, so until you can actually see what's put in there. I mean, it's like a footballer's contract. If you breach your contract, they can sack you. We don't know what was in the contract. I mean, I'm not really too much into all this anyway, so I'll let you two get on with it.
That's cool. But I do need to address this Finn Mac call. Fair enough, mate. Look, we all have our opinions about whether he should. Everyone's allowed an opinion. We agree with that, Finn, without any shadow of a doubt. I think the wording he used was inappropriate. I think people in his position have a responsibility. He does keep thrusting this left-wing agenda through to everyone, which I guess someone, you know, people want to support that. That's fine, support it. You know, everyone's got a right to an opinion. I do have to take up a little bit about this comment you've made, Finn, and that is that I use the term Planet Zog. It's a made-up term in my mind, but you are saying, do I know what that means in right-wing? So I don't, if I'm honest, and I will look into that, Finn. And clearly, I've made that name up as a, you know, they live on Planet Zog. I've used it a number of times about players and their money. I will look into that, and if that has got some meaning, then I apologise for that, and I will never use that terminology again. But certainly, it is not the wording you use there. You know that means I don't. So fair enough. There we are. That's that closed. Anyway, let's just take up some more of the thing. I think most people are saying, you know, what they're saying, jog on, whatever. We are going to move away from this subject soon. Okay, so that's Gary Lineker. I just got to say, though, regardless of what anyone's opinion, left, right, whatever, why do the players get involved? Why does the Premier League get involved? It's nothing to do with them. Why has football got to become this propaganda, agenda-pushing platform now? This is not what we want in our game. And yes, we've spoke about Gary Lineker's, what our opinion is, should he, shouldn't he? Fair enough. But for me, the biggest elephant in the room is why are politics, agendas being pushed? Why is the game of football become a propaganda platform?
It's a worldwide platform, isn't it, Gal? That's what it is. It's a worldwide platform. It's, you know, it gets the attention. You know, normal fans, you, me, loads of people watching, and you know, people I know, people who, you know, they don't want it. You know, you speak. You might. I've got mates who go to football who've got a completely different view on things than I have. But they don't want politics in football. They want to go to football, have a good day out, have a drink, have a sing song. Really, you know, it's a. You work all week. You go to football on a Saturday. You want to have a good time. You don't want to be getting drawn into politics and all these political campaigns that they do. And but the thing is, especially in the Premier League, it's broadcast all over the world, and it's all a lot of it is attention, but it's all because it's like, well, hang on a minute, we can show that on there, and it's going to be all over the world, you know, and that's why they do it.
Yeah,
and it's just, whether it's this situation or other situations, it's the perfect platform to do it, and it's wrong.
And unfortunately, this is why I rapidly fall out of love with the game, and a lot of other people. This is the problem. It should be just a game of football, but like, with everything else around football, money, everything else, it drags it into, my view, the gutter, and football is in the gutter, particularly with all this going on. Like I say, my biggest bugbear is the politics being dragged into football again, the hypocrisy of all these other cronies that he's got. And I do say cronies because they are so far detached from normal living life. They're all very privileged people earning an awful lot of money. I've seen people putting up scales of, you know, Lineker's on 1.34 million, Shearer's on £445,000 a year, and Alex Scott's on £200,000 a year. And, you know, they live, I'm not going to say that anymore. I'm going to have to look into that after the show. But they live on the I don't know, and they live on a weird planet somewhere else. That's all I can say. But that's what's upsetting, I think. In any way, were any of you involved with out of interest? Well, that's irrelevant. You know, absolutely. All right, okay. So we're just going to carry on. And yeah, so yeah, clearly. It's dragging football into a place it don't want to be. And the hypocrisy, I see a post come up. Let me see, hang on. And I think this sort of the hypocrisy of these guys and girls that are coming off quite simply summed up with this, I think. You know, there's a bit of hypocrisy going on there. No one decided to step away with Qatar, and they all, you know, wanted to say their piece. So, right, let's put that elephant to bed. End of it. It's over. Let's move on and bring a little bit of light on the subject, though. And it's this one. Where is it? It went up. This is quite funny. So this is putting light on what is a dreadful subject. Mo Salah aims for the BBC cameraman and misses penalty in solidarity with Lineker. Just a joke, people, by the way. That's quite funny. I just thought it was amusing. Right, okay, moving along.
Yeah, I've had a bit of fun with it, to be fair. But that's what we try and do. We try and keep it light-hearted on the page. Do you know what I mean? But like you say, when something happens in football, you've got to address it. You've got to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, on the page, we try and keep it light-hearted. Bit of fun.
You hit the nail on the head, though, Greg. When something happens in football, you've got to talk about it. We don't want to be talking about politics, do we?
No,
it's football we want to be talking about.
We don't want to talk about it. They're sort of saying, when I opened it up, I said, it's not something we want to talk about. We don't want to, but you get put in positions sometimes that you get no choice. And this is one of them times. You know, do I agree with what he's done? No, I don't. Do I agree with the BBC? No, I don't. You know, is this the beginning of a shake-up? I don't know. Let's see. But we'll just carry on as we are and try and have a bit of fun now. So after that awful discussion, let's try and move along. And what's this got? I could put... Yeah, okay. So, all right, we're going to move along, folks. Let's have this. Everyone can be a bit of VAR now, and I'll get everyone's opinion. And if you've got opinion about this next clip, then yeah. Now, I'm going to play you a little video from a goal that was scored by Northampton Town yesterday, okay, from what was supposed to be a corner. Now, the question I'm going to put out to everyone is was it a valid goal? Should that have been allowed to take place? So you're going to see what I mean when I play you this clip, which is coming up now. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to play it once more, and it's all about how the corner is taken. All right. So once more, and people join in. Feel free. Let's play it once more.
Couldn't really see it, to be fair, mate.
You can't see him touching the ball, Gaz. You can't see him pushing the ball on.
Right, you can't see it.
No.
Right, hang on. Is there anything I can do? Right, okay. Right, I'll explain to you. People out there, I've got a feeling you probably can see it. Just let me know. Right, so what the player does, he brings the ball over as if he's going to place it. He puts it in the little D. Now, Nigel, you're the perfect person for this. He puts it in the D, but very blasé taps it, so it just goes outside the little D a bit, yeah? Very blasé taps it. The other fella then comes along, takes it off, and consequent in a goal.
Yeah, but providing the ball's got a complete circumference, isn't it?
Outside of the little corner circle.
Well, yeah, when it's travelling outside, as long as it's done a full circle, then the ball's in play. So like that's just them pulling the wool over their eyes and lack of concentration, really. It's not illegal. I mean, if the ball's travelling.
I just thought this is a great thing.
It's great. It's great because people think that he's just leaving it for his mate to take.
Yes.
So they switch off.
Exactly what he's done. And people obviously watching this have been out to see it, so that's good. And he just very blasé. He rolls it with his foot in as if he's.
Well, it hardly moves, is it? But he puts it in the
D, then it rolls just enough outside. It clearly goes outside. I'm calling it a D, but it ain't a D, is it? Just so it's a legal goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nigel, you're the best man to say yes or no.
Yeah, definitely. It's just lack of concentration. People think they've switched off because they think that he's left the ball for his mate to go and take. So everyone's switched off apart from the players on the other side that know that he's going to get the ball and cross it. So the defending team sort of switched off a bit. He's caught them out. He's put the ball over and it's back in the net. That's a goal.
Yeah. Cool. No, absolutely. Right. Okay. So let's have a little flick through some of what's gone on over the weekend. And then I want to put some attention onto the FA Vase, which has been a really interesting quarter-final in the FA Vase there. So this week's standout fixtures, I'll quickly run through the leagues. And then, guys, you then come in with any of the standouts that you want to mention. Obviously, I'm going to leave the Premier League to one of you guys to mention. Obviously, Bournemouth, you've got to mention them. Great result for them. Unbelievable for them. Down in QPR getting a result over Watford. I am going to touch on Watford a little bit later, but not to do with anything that you might think. But QPR not winning since October, then getting a 1-0 win over Watford with their new manager. In Championship, other standout results in there. Middlesbrough picking up a 3-1 win at Swansea, and Sheffield United going down at home to Luton Town, who also are flying. But Middlesbrough looking like they're really going to push for that second spot there. Down into League One, some interesting results there. Plymouth getting a bit of a bloodied nose up at Barnsley, 3-0. Plymouth obviously riding high there. Ipswich getting a great win, 2-0 at Bolton Wanderers. Sheffield Wednesday picking up a 1-0 win at Portsmouth, which is really good for them. Down in League Two, what is it? Leyton Orient held. Oh no, they were postponed. Leyton Orient. Grimsby picking up a 1-0 win. Leyton Orient seems to be doing really, really well in that league. Quickly into the National League. Wrexham 1, Southend 0, and Notts County 3. Dorking Wanderers 1, so that battle will go on right to the wire, although at the moment Wrexham do have the upper hand. Down in National League North, quickly just want to highlight some proper goals going in down there. We had a 3-3 draw at Kettering. We had a 3-3 draw at Spennymoor. We had a 4-1 at Blythe Spartan. Boston getting that. We have 3-1, 3-0. There's loads of goals going in down there. Just one I'm going to highlight one down here, and that is Ebbsfleet getting held 1-0 at Tunbridge. Ebbsfleet, though, look like they got that league wrapped up there. 15 points ahead of their nearest rivals at the top of National League South. So Ebbsfleet look like they're heading into the National League next year. They've got a cracking ground as well down there in Gravesend, that area. Fantastic ground. Obviously, today there's been a couple of games there. Arsenal getting a 3-0 win over Fulham. I thought that would be a bit more trickier. Southampton picking up a draw at Man United. That's a big result. West Ham won, Aston Villa won, and Newcastle picking up a 2-1 win, finished just shortly ago against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Any highlights for you guys?
No, I think Barnsley are flying at the moment, aren't they? I mean, if you look at the tape, they've got 2 games in hand still on most of the teams. So they were off the radar 8 weeks ago.
Definitely. I mean, you were looking at that league and you were thinking Derby. Sorry, I missed Derby's result. What was their result?
They won 3-2. Oxford.
They won 3-2. You were thinking like Plymouth, Derby, Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich. You're right. Barnsley been totally off the radar. And that's some
huge teams down there as well, aren't there? You know, you think of Bolton and Portsmouth and Charlton, and you could put 8 or 9 in the mix, really, couldn't you? Of teams that would comfortably hold their own in the Championship. It's mad. It's a mad league, League One. There's no other third tier in the world that's like it. You know,
Sheff Wednesday at top of the league. They've got 2 games in hand now on the teams behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's certainly not a league you want to drop into, is it? You know what I mean? If you're a Championship team now, you drop in there, you know, Christ, you've seen the likes of Ipswich go down. Bolton have been down there a while. You know, obviously Charlton, Portsmouth, all these teams. You know, it's a struggle to get out of there. It looks like Sheffield Wednesday are finally going to get out after a few years, and Derby are bang there. Barnsley are obviously a bit of a yo-yo team, but it's a toss of a coin, isn't it? Really, it's a lottery for a lot of teams.
I think they're starting to get a little bit of a breakaway. Like they were really tight 6 or 7 weeks ago, weren't they? The leagues. I think you're now starting to get a little bit of space between the sort of top 4 and the like the 8th position, 10th position, something like that. Alex Langley, Caddy, as they say, Barnsley's a difficult place to go. Actually, a decent day out in the little town. Do you know what? I DJ'd at Escapade in Barnsley for a few months when that just opens. And it's a nice little town, Barnsley. But you know, for me, they've just appeared from nowhere.
Yeah.
Massive Right, okay, so this leads me in nicely. Sorry, Ben Cliff. Massive congratulations to our friends up at Congleton Town, beating AFC Bury in the Cup on penalties, 1 game away from Wembley. Okay, that leads me nicely into the FA Vars. So, yes, this weekend was the quarterfinals of the FA Vars. The holders, Newport Pagnell Town, going through in that quarterfinal into the semis again. I've got a video that I'm going to put on. It really does show the passion and that about the lower leagues. Obviously, for those that don't know, you've got non-league cup competitions. One's the FA Trophy, one's the FA Vars. The FA Vars is for the lower tiers of the non-league structure, and the FA Trophy for the top National League type tiers. So this is the FA Vars. Going to show you this video that's been made up. Now, one of the really interesting things about this year's quarterfinal is everyone won their game on penalties. I think this is possibly history in the making. Every quarterfinal was won on the penalty shootout. Everyone. So this is possibly a little bit of history. I'm going to show this video. This is a video that we've knocked together of the celebrations, and I think it just sums up the passion that goes into a lot of this. Bear with me. Here we go. And there you go.
Decent.
Didn't mean to do that, folks. I thought I'd put it up. I know we didn't see all the finishing penalties, but I just thought it was nice to see what it meant to the people down in them lower leagues. Really good. And yeah, Congleton's, that was a winning penalty. We did get to see that, Ben. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. Newport Pagnell Town, I used to live just around the corner from that. And yeah, wow, the way that club's grown. And that pitch you see them celebrating, that's a brand new stand they got off the back of obviously picking up the FA Vase last season. So good luck to them again. So yeah, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So brilliant. Okay, so let's get back on to another talking point, and then we'll do some funnies and see where we go from there. Just going to bring this one up. What a weird, I mean, it's been an awful week for Tottenham Hotspur. Richarlison, I know you're not a fan of Richarlison, are you, Nigel?
No, I can't stand him. Full stop.
Get in the mess. I mean, even though they know Conte's probably leaving, should they realistically, should a player be doing what he just done?
I don't know. Tell me what he done.
Oh, you don't know? Oh, he came out and did an interview where he slated the manager proper, and he's had a shit season in his words. And yeah,
that don't surprise you though. Every incident that takes place on a pitch, he's involved in it. Yeah. He tries to get players sent off. He just has to be in everything. I don't like the guy.
Yeah, basically he said he'd had a shit season and he was fed up and all this. And then Conte come out, done his press conference before the game at the weekend, and he basically said, yeah, he was right. He has had a shit season. So he kind of twisted it round.
and then he went and had a goal disallowed, didn't he?
Yeah, he scored after about 2 minutes, didn't he? Had a goal disallowed, yeah. But to be fair, it hasn't worked out there for him, was it? You know, at the end of the day, if you go back to the Watford days, we got an overly inflated price for him.
I don't think he's that good. I think he's overrated, mate.
This is it. Everton paid a fortune for him. And then he done okay. To be fair, at Everton, they lacked a real goal scorer, sort of anyone to kind of deliver. And he did, for them, he did kind of step up. So the next move, I guess, did make sense, but he's not delivered at Spurs at all, is he, really? So.
I think he does all the drama because he ain't scoring enough goals, and he's got to keep the focus on him.
The mad thing is, as well, when you watched him in the World Cup for Brazil, you know, he's a different sort of player. You know, I don't know if it's because they've got the, you know, he's not kind of like the main drama queen, is he, for Brazil?
You said you weren't going.
No, you know, whereas at Spurs, he kind of is. But, you know, Brazil have got Neymar and they've got all these other players, so he kind of just slots in, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's been a really, really bad week for them guys, and you do have to feel sorry for the Spurs fans a little bit. But hey, you know what? Maybe they'll get a bit of discounting on their go-karting. Who knows?
Well, it looks. I mean, it looks like Kane's off for the end of the year as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't know where they are really. Yeah, I mean, they come back to what we were saying last week, mate. They ignored the FA Cup. Now look where they are. And I can't see them getting in top four.
No,
they had a bit of luck yesterday, didn't they? Because they won. And who was right behind them? Dropped points. Anyway,
Liverpool.
someone dropped. So I think they've got about a 5 or 6 point sort of like, you know, gap in between fourth and fifth. So I don't know. But either way, for me, you look at Spurs. They've had, like you say, they've had a shocking week. Take out their win yesterday. Out the FA Cup, out the Champions League. They lost to, was it Wolves they lost to last week in the league?
Yeah.
It's a bad time. I can't see Conte staying. I think he's too much of an outspoken character really to last at a club like that. Obviously Levy, he doesn't really spend really. I know, people with an argument will say, well, he spent X amount, which is fine, but I don't know. You compare it to
I think if he was being realistic as a chairman of a football club or whatever, or the manager, you're in the Champions League Cup, you're still in that, and you're in the FA Cup. Weigh up your season and weigh up your team that you got. You ain't going to win the Champions League. So you want to get some silverware, go for that FA Cup. Still try and win.
This is it.
But being realistic, you got to look at the two and say, well, we've got more chance of winning the FA Cup than we have of winning the European Champions League.
Didn't we put something up on our page about the prize money compared to the FA Cup, compared to the Champions League?
We brought it up
crazy,
last week.
Yeah,
crazy. I brought that up last week, and that just shows you why the bigger clubs are not really that interested.
The FA Cup, so it's more for, like what Callie was sort of saying, it's more for the fans, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, you look at Spurs, they're away to Sheffield United, they fill 2 tiers of that ground. For them, it's like get through this. You're a couple of games from Wembley, you got a chance of a bit of silverware. Whereas for the club, not so much the players, for the club, they're thinking about the game the following Tuesday when they're in the Champions League because of the money. They get through that. Extra few million in the kitty, you know what I mean?
It goes back to the business. It's a football club is a business now. It's not a football club. So the FA Cup side of it's the football side of it, and the Champions League is the money side of it. So again, it just shows you that it's just money based now football.
100%.
Yeah, it's great what you said there, because what that does sum up again, and what we always complain about, I suppose, we're grumpy old men at times, but it is the fact that the FA Cup is for not you're not an old man, are you, mate? But there we are. But the FA Cup is for the fans. But do these clubs give 2 hoots about the fans? Does anybody get,
Well, you go back to the days of COVID, and we was being told by all the media, the fans are the most important. The clubs were telling everyone that fans are most important. You look at today, for example, Norwich versus Sunderland, 12 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday. Sky Sports, apparently they care about the fans. So you could look at it from a club point of view, a media point of view. They don't give a toss about any of us.
That's dreadful. I mean, they don't. They absolutely don't. You're quite right. And like we said, I mean, I don't want to use this terminology till I've looked into it, but anyway, like I said, I think there's a world of it, and it comes back to our opening discussion. There's this group of people in football, pundits, and I'll give you a good example, right? What I think is, and this is nothing to do with BBC, this is Talk Sport, right? So on Friday, I'm listening to Talk Sport, right? Now, we're in the middle of a crisis. Everyone going on strike. People struggling to pay their heating bills, right? People struggling with food banks and everything else that we hear and see that's going on. And then what you do, you've got Talk Sport. You've got Stuart. I love Stuart Pearce. I really do. I thought he was a great player. But he turns up in the studio, bronzed up. Where you been then, Stuart? Oh, a few days out in Barbados, and then you got them playing this jingle on Talk Sport about them all going on a jolly for the company up to the Cheltenham Festival, and the jingle is about them drinking beer all day and gambling. And you're thinking they are so out of touch with what's going on with normal people. And I'm putting them all in this bracket. All the people coming out on strike for your man, and all of them, they earn so much money, they live such a privileged life that they have put this separation between us, the football fan, who are most of us, not all, I know, but most of us normal working class people struggling to put a penny together and live, and bang. There's this total divide, and it just seems to me to be getting bigger and bigger, and that's the crying shame with it all. You know,
I don't know what it is with, like, you mentioned Talk Sport, like, I don't know what it is with them, but like, I kind of go through phases with them, so I can listen to them for a few days, and they do me head in, and then I won't listen to them for a month. It's like you just get sick of it. Like,
I've been really disappointed with Talk Sport lately because that example I've just given you guys there, you know, I think that's really disrespectful.
It's like I've been asked whether I keep in touch with my old playmates and all that, and do I go out with them? And I'd keep in touch with a few of them, like Barnsley and stuff like that. But if I was mates with Stuart Pearce, and we played in the same era, and he said, "Why don't you come out for a drink with us?" I wouldn't be able to go out for a drink with him because I can't afford to spend £100-200 on a rounds.
No, and that's
so when you're going on about these bubbles they live in, you're right, totally different bubbles. As much as I'd love to go out and have a catch up with him and have a night out with him, I wouldn't be able. I just wouldn't be able to afford the rounds.
And that's Manu. And I don't know if Finn's still watching, but Finn, that's Manu. I'll use that one. They're in a bubble. Obviously, well, the word I was using before had some sort of connotation that I was unaware of, but there we are. So in a bubble they are. They are. And I'm disappointed that I think it's so disrespectful to normal people when they've got an actual official jingle bragging about they're off to, you know, Cheltenham, and it literally says they're on the beer all day, and then they come up with a warning at the end of the jingle: drink responsibly and gambles.
Do you know what the thing is, Gaz? The thing is, they'll go to Cheltenham and probably won't even have to pay for the drinks.
No, this is it. You're right. Yeah, I mean, you're saying about going out and having a round of drink, but a lot of half these will go to these places and not pay.
They're advertising Cheltenham. Cheltenham probably go, come and have a drink on us.
Of course. Yeah, 100%. You know, and I just think there's this, I don't know, there's a divide building more and more and more, the haves and the have-nots. And maybe the distribution of wealth is I'm going deep now, and I don't want to. I'm going to shut up after this. But there's a wealth division, I think, between the haves and the have-nots that's grown and grown and grown over the years. I think it's at an all-time high. You know, it really is, and I think that is beginning to tell. But anyway, there we go. Right. Okay, what we got time-wise, we're okay. Should we move and have a little bit of a light-hearted giggle? So let's move into the funny section. Let's do that. There you go. Right, funny section. Got a couple. Now, this one I've had for a couple of weeks, actually, and I keep forgetting to put it on. So we're going to talk quickly, go show you a photo, because I think this is absolutely brilliant. Forest Green Rovers, as we know, is a meat-free zone, yeah? It's all very ecological, and it's all vegetarian. They're not allowed any meat in the ground, so on and so forth. So just up the road from the ground is the traditional burger van, and guess who's at it? The staff. Oh, mate, I had a chuckle at that. He must do a roaring trade, that fella. He really must. Woodchester snacks. Oh, I've had that for a couple of weeks. Keep meaning to put it up. Absolutely brilliant photo of that. Fantastic. There you go. Right, okay. We love Sunday League, don't we? Eh? I think we had a discussion about Sunday League not so long back about how it's diminished so much. But here, watch this.
Was that game after they went to the pub or before?
It's the way the whole team, both side players, started to fall on the floor laughing. Oh, what a brilliant clip. That's Sunday League for you, isn't it? I mean,
certainly is.
I'm going to watch that again. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Well, that's all I've got for you this week, folks. So maybe it's time. We ain't done one for a couple of weeks. Nigel, you've got a little story you could give us if I go to that segment? I'll give you a moment to think about it.
Yeah, give me 5 minutes.
5 minutes. I'll give you the length of this clip. Here we are. Go on. I'm going to put you under pressure. So I think we can wrap the show up on time tonight.
Some people are on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now. It's 4. And Charlton.
Right, the pressure's on now, Nigel. Come on, give us something. Anything you want.
I'll go. I mean, most of my stories revolve around sort of Watford, but Boothie was a character. I don't know if you remember Dennis Booth, but he was a skipper of our club, and he was a proper character. There's a couple of funny moments we had. One of them was he came in one morning with a love bite on his neck, and it was his missus that gave him it. And Taylor sent him home, told him to go home, and he fined him. Says, "Don't come training till that love bite's off your neck." And then about a week later, I had a hickey on my neck, and I'm shitting myself now because we're training indoors because it's the snow outside. They've booked a gym, and I've got my tracksuit on with the collars right up, covering my neck, and I'm probably training twice as hard as all the others, and he's going, "What's the matter with Callahan? He don't normally train like that." And all the lads had t-shirts and shorts on. I had a full tracksuit on, and then there was another time when we went up to training grounds and we had a little reserves versus the first team practice match, and I nutmegged Boothie. I was in the reserves at the time, but I nutmegged him. And the lad started laughing. So he turned around and he kicked me up the arse. And Taylor sent him off again. And he said, "Right, if you want to act like a child, I'll treat you like a child. You can spend the whole next week getting changed with the apprentices and training with them." So he was coming in, he was like shouting at all the apprentices, and then Tom Wally came in, he was like, "Boothie, don't you touch my lads." Boothie was, do you know what? There was Boothie and Steve Harrison and John Ward, and they were the lads that kept the spirit going at Watford, because Taylor used to rip into us, and once he'd given us a bollocking, they could cut the ice by making a joke about it. And Steve Harrison was brilliant, but Boothie character that I don't know whether you get them sort of players at clubs now anymore. I was listening to Ten Hag say on about the who is it, the Portuguese player that's captain for him? What's his name? Yeah, he's saying about how much energy he brings to the club, and he's good for the lads, and I think you need players like that at the club. You can't just have good players and have no characters. You need to have characters in the dressing room.
100%, and that's probably what Watford lacked, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think Watford have got that. And I think I'm not having to go out foreign players, but you've got to get them. You've got. It seems all foreign players at Watford. You've got to get the mixture right. And I'm still not a fan of these managers that come over with foreign managers that can't speak English. I don't know how that works, but yeah, it's. The good old days were a long time ago, but they were good old days. And the bad times, the good times outweigh the bad times by far.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I wonder, did you remember the old remedy? Was it toothpaste?
Yeah, thing was, I was playing on the right wing, and he was over the other side of the pitch, so I only had one collar up, covering this side of the neck.
Put a bit of toothpaste on it,
I remember he'd done the same thing with Richard Jobson. He named the team at a hotel. We was playing away, and we'd had a pre-match lunch, and then he named the team. And Jobbo was, I think he was in the first team, or he might have been sub. That was in the days when we only had one sub. And as we arrived at the grounds, we all got up to get our bags off the coach. And just before we got up, he went, "Just sit down, all of you." He said, "Richard Jobson, you was going to be playing today, but if you can't be bothered to have a shave on a match day, then you probably won't be bothered about the match. So you're sitting this one out."
Jesus.
Like, you want to see all the clean-shaven lads the next day. But yeah, it just went, if you can't be bothered to shave and clean yourself up, then you probably won't be bothered about it much. And that was the things we had to put up with. But these days, players don't care. They get fined. They're earning about 20 times more than they're fined.
100%.
We got fined a week's wages. That hurt us. That really hurt us.
Yeah, no. Right, guys, what I do, I want to finish the show off with a little discussion about Watford, funnily enough, but it's about there is an investigation currently going on with one of the Watford players. I can't remember his name now. Greg, you might be able to.
What was that? Sorry, mate. You just cut out a little bit there.
There's an investigation currently going on about financial fair play.
Oh, Hassan Kamara.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the situation is that obviously, for those that know, the Pozzo family own Watford and now own Udinese as a family. And what's happened is Watford bought Kamara in for £3.5 million. And then when we went down, they sold him to Udinese for 16 million.
Yeah.
16 million. And then he got loaned straight back to Watford.
Yeah.
And that's been investigated. I think Watford are confident that there is no thing, but it does sound a bit murky, doesn't it?
Yeah, but look, all these. How many times have you seen transfer deals going through from Watford and it's got undisclosed fee? So, when you see the transfer market in the window and you see what prices players are getting transferred for, the amount of times I've looked at Watford's transfer dealings and it's got undisclosed fee. So there's no fee being...
there's an awful lot of traffic between the two clubs. There's no two ways about it. But that one's been investigated, Greg. I mean, the club seem fairly confident that they.
Yeah, personally, mate, I think it will be all right. If you break it down and look at it, we signed a player for not much money. He came in halfway through the season. He got our player of the season, and every single Watford fan would tell you he was by far and away the best player. He was outstanding when he came in. You get players this day and age, when they do well in a short space of time, their price gets obviously increased dramatically. And he was linked with La Liga clubs. He was linked with other clubs in England as well. Watford obviously struck some sort of deal with him. I don't know what, that he was sold to Udinese and loaned back. Now, a bit like when the Pozzos first bought us, took us over, and we loaned all them players over from Udinese, and we had sort of 7, 8, 9 players, whatever it was. The EFL had no rule for us doing that. And similarly, in this situation, they had no rule that you could sell a player and loan them back. So all our owners have done, in my opinion, is found a loophole and exploited it. In terms of
Chelsea,
and in terms of the fee, I don't actually think the fee is excessive, and I don't think they'll be able to prove anything, because you look at some of the, you look at Harry Maguire, 80 million. You look at these other players, how much stupid money they go for, and it's like £18 million for a player who's player of the season potentially.
It's dodgy. It's dodgy money though when you the Pozzos own 3 clubs or 2 clubs. I mean, I had a situation at Derby when I went from Watford to Derby.
Yeah,
Elton weren't happy that Taylor sold me at Derby, and I went for 120,000, I think. And then so he's told Dave Bassett to try and buy me back. So Bassett made an offer of 250,000 for me.
Yeah,
and Arthur said no, it's not enough. And he said, "Come on, Arthur, that's double your money." And he said, "No, you sold him too cheap." So then I'm going to them like, how come my values keep going up? And he said, this and that. And then surprisingly, 4 days later, they get a bid from Oxford, which is Maxwell's son was running. So you've got Robert Maxwell at Derby and his son at Oxford, and they've offered 450,000. So I know that no money's even going to change banks there. It's going to go from one Maxwell account into the other. And they've just done that so that they could put a price on my head. And I went down and discussed terms with them. It was awful. They wanted me to drop a division, only get a slight increase in wages, epoxy sign-in on fee, and they wanted me to drop from the top division down to the second division. So it was all a farce. And I went back and told them that I weren't happy at all with what happened there. So it doesn't surprise me if a family owned 2 football clubs and they're putting undisclosed fees down, like surely someone's going to look into it, aren't they?
I just think as well. I think what it is people see stories like this and they think, oh, what? Because we've been owned obviously by the Potter family for 10 years and they own Udinese and they've owned them for 30 odd years, whatever. But people forget now that obviously Brighton, their owner, they own a club in Belgium. Is it Belgium? I think. And then obviously you've got Nottingham Forest. Their owner owns a club in Greece. This is kind of a new thing. That this isn't not just like a single issue with Watford. Other owners have owned multiple clubs across Europe, and they've done similar things to what Watford have done. I think from a neutral fan point of view, they're probably looking at it and they're not happy with us. That and they're probably hoping that we get some form of punishment, but. Looking at it, I've tried to break it down and look at it. I don't think there's any wrongdoing personally. I'd be amazed if they was able to even.
Yeah, but don't you think when a club puts for an undisclosed fee, that seems like they're trying to cover up something?
It does. But then if you look at the transfer deadline day, probably 75% of the deals that are done are all undisclosed. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because of terms with the player that they're signed, or the agent fees, or the bonuses. I don't know what it is to do with, but. It's not an unusual, if it was an unusual thing and all of Watford's dealings are undisclosed and all the other clubs aren't, I'd get it. But most
I'm not saying it's just Watford. I'm just saying if you know that they're looking into the finances now and on everything that's going on, if you put undisclosed fee, that shouts out they're hiding something.
True.
Whether it's Watford, whether it's another team, that whoever's investigating that sort of thing. It's like a traffic light going.
I wonder if that's just purely undisclosed to the public, like to me and you. I'm sure that if the EFL or whoever asked for the details, I'm sure they would obviously disclose everything that needed to be disclosed. Then they can't keep it undisclosed from the authorities. Do you know what I mean? It's just undisclosed to the general public more than anything. Which again is wrong. At the end of the day, if you buy or sell a player, you want to know how much they're being sold or bought for. You know what I mean? So I don't agree with it, but we'll see what happens. But I think it will just fizzle out into nothing. But talking about obviously clubs being investigated, it's just been broken not long ago that Burnley have just been given a transfer embargo. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, so if they go up, that'll be interesting. Well, when they go up.
What have they done wrong?
I've not had a chance to read it, mate, since I've been on here, because I've only seen it while I've been on here. But yeah, apparently they're appealing it, but they've been handed a transfer embargo.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
They got a young man from City there, isn't he? He's been setting the world alight. Centre back. Yeah. And he's going back to City next season on a 30 grand contract.
Really? The mad one for me for Burnley is that Nathan Teller. He's scoring goals left, right, and centre for him, and his parent club Southampton, the bottom of the league, and struggling. And you think it's just madness. I don't know if they didn't have a recall clause in there, but that's just crazy.
Companies must be a good coach because he's turned that team around and he's made players into better players. When I was at Watford, Graham Taylor and Arthur Cox, two different managers, but the one thing Graham Taylor could do, he'd make you into a better player. If you was a good player, he'd make you into a great player.
Yeah,
because he'd have you back in the afternoons and you'd be practicing your skills. You'd be trying to improve all the time. So. When you see what company's done at Burnley, I think his coaching methods must be really good.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. Look, we're on the hour, so I think it's time to wrap it up. So, Nigel, you're on Mixcloud tonight, are you? Even though I know you've had a couple of nights off, are you on tonight?
Yeah, I'll be back on. Got me new headphones, £80. I'll be back on about 9 o'clock.
Mate, so you're in this elite bracket now, aren't you, with your new headphones? So.
No, I had to buy them. The other ones packed in, didn't they? They're actually really good. They're sort of like they're really good speakers.
Brilliant. So catch Nigel on Mixcloud. Also catch Nigel on Wednesday, 6 o'clock, when we do an Under the Floodlights live. You can join in. You can ask questions or do a bit of a Q&A if you want. But we'll have an interesting interview there on Under the Floodlights.
How long's it on for? How long's
half hour, 45 minutes, I suppose.
Well, that'll be you then, won't it? You talk for 5 minutes.
No, mate. This is you're under the floodlight, mate. I just have to open the door for you to talk. Right, okay then. Greg, last words?
Not much to say, mate, to be fair. from a personal point of view, football's a disaster. I'm not going to get into my club, but yeah. But no. Relegation battle in the Premier League looks exciting, probably the most exciting it's been for a while. And I'm actually, do you know what? From a neutral point of view, I'm actually really looking forward to the playoffs and the playoff runnings in all three divisions because, I don't think anyone can call it, especially Championship and League One. It's definitely something we'll talk about in the next few weeks. As the games close in, because there's some, tough to call.
Yeah, and then, folks, we must just remember that at the end of the season, I think sort of end of
we did them predictions, didn't we? Do you remember?
Yeah, we did. I don't know where I put them though. But we will be having a summer break, folks, at the end of the season. Probably end of May when it's all over through to about mid-July. The show will have a break. However, we will carry on doing some Under the Floodlight interviews instead. So, we'll do some of that. Okay, then, folks, that's it. I'm going to call it a day. Guys, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah. And we'll see you all again next week. And you'll see me and Nigel on Wednesdays. So,
have a good week. Have a good week, guys.
Yeah, good week, guys.
Have a good week.
The Proper Football Live Show, Sundays at 6 p.m. for your football fix on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and PF Radio.